Everyone, and welcome to 2026. Actually, this week in hospitality marketing live show number 544 in 2026. Hello, everyone, and my name is Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry for the slight latency in getting started this morning. Technology, obviously, 2026 technology has changed the world, and I had a problem. But I apologize for those that were pinging me, going, "Where are you? Where are you?" I am very sorry. I had some issues with changing. Anyways, the internet gods allowed me to participate today. Well, welcome to a fresh new year, fresh new month. It's always fun. I was watching a show talking about the social psychology of what New Year's represents to people. And it's a uniform period of time for people to consider mentally to change a page of what their life or what they're doing or how they see life or ways to look at seeing what they want to do differently. Some people do it in quarters, some people do it after life-changing events and so forth and so on. But New Year's is more cumulatively a universal reset for many people. So with that in mind, we're being in 2026, I want to start the year reevaluating or looking at the way we have historically approached things, especially from a marketing perspective for hospitality, since that's what our show is about, and really dive into how the world is changing for us. As we talked up to today's show, going through the end of last year's transition through the holiday periods and so forth, the fifth quarter, fifth time, which was this time of year where people are self-centric and they're purchasing and changing perspectives and so forth. We talked about the fact that the evolving nature of what we do and how we do it with the infusion of AI, the impact of AI's usage by our users, our usage of AI by our clients as product users and so forth, is redefining how effective what we have historically done to what we're doing or need to do now. We approached a lot of it with the SEO, what SEO value is and how the world of SEO is making such a massive impact on the expansion of generative AI discovery, search engines that are related to discovering our products. But we're still looking at it in a way of familiar, persistent funnel perspective. The whole process of discovery, education, consideration, and then conversion, this four-step process. Well, if you haven't really discussed it in the real terms that process is, it's called AIDA, AIDA driven marketing, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. It's a framework for what we do for our potential guests through a bit of a buying journey, just like we talk about the discovery education process. They're just different nomenclatures for the process of this funnel engagement. But it's also a modality of how we create our structured advertising, how we build our ad campaigns, how we choose the channels our ad campaigns on, how we message our ad campaigns to this. It's really meant, all of our advertising is to strategically grab attention, like, hey, if you haven't thought about this or you are thinking about this, which is better targeting, this is what we want you to know and build the interest, okay? And then we're going to give them something that will develop a desirable aspect of what we're doing, okay? And we'll then offer a means of prompting, call to action, okay, to make a purchase. This should sound very familiar as to how we do this. This is how we've been doing things and how we structure our things for so long. Like I said, it's very much of a funnel process that says we're going to take a large group of people that we don't know what they're directly interested in, expose ourselves to them, funny in a way, and then call the engagement that generates into a way of then cultivating their interest into a tangible desire, into a tangible action of conversion. And we know that descending, even I make the gestures to do this, is a smaller and smaller group of people that we dialogue with. Guess what? Everybody knows we do this. We even approach ads that we watch as personal consumption in the same process. Like, okay, okay, just get to the point of where it is. What are you offering me? We know the process, okay? Let's break it down into some more particulars. Okay, so attention, the awareness program of this. We try to do good, strong visuals for that engagement. Very powerful statements, headlines. Okay, we try to create unique terminology that defines us differently than something similar in the guest's mind as to what we could be like. Okay. To make them stop and take notice of what we're saying. It's like, hey, we're saying something, doing something, showing something that should get your attention. Okay. Now, at that point, the guest, potential guest, consumer, is evaluating whether the message has any interest to them. Okay. Okay. Wow. Pretty picture, pretty this, pretty that, whatever. Great. Okay. And that catalyst of the attention building that we try to do with these images and messaging and what have you to get notice and attention to them. If it turns into an interest, okay, the goal then is to go over and start highlighting what it is that we think makes us what they want to know more about, benefiting, highlighting the benefits of our amenities, our feature abilities, our value propositions, not necessarily always quickly to the call to action, okay, but the value that we represent. Why do you want what we're offering? Okay, and this transcends into a bit of an education process. Did you know we're near this? Did you know that we do this? Did you know that we had this? Okay, it's that cultivating from the attention transition to people saying, well, I am kind of interested. That looks pretty cool. Okay, boom. Now we're trying to cultivate the interest as to why they want to go over and continue to engage with us, why they want to see more, discover more about us. And that moves into what was called the desire phase. Okay, and that is going from being aware of what we're interested in to more of a reason why they want it. They want the feeling of that happiness that's in the commercial. They want the experience that we're saying we're offering. They want the benefit of what it is that we're selling. Okay, wow, I get that, I get this, or I'm there, I'm near this, I get to experience that, I get to see this. That interest has changed into a internalization of them of wanting it. It's psychologists talk about that internalization from an exterior stimulus to an interior motivation, desire. Okay, and this goes also to how we create the message. Some things we do at this stage is we give testimonies of other people that are hopefully similar to them if we do our targeting correctly, so that reinforces why they seem to be interested in what we have to say and offer, because they see similar people or people that they relate to or peers that they would look to. This is where endorsements come in and influencers and so forth, as to the value proposition being similar to what they want internally. Okay. And then this turns into the part that we want the most, which is an action. We present the final step to do all of this, to get what it is that we're saying, to experience what it is that we say we can have you experience, is to offer a very clear, this is what you do about it. Click here, go here, ask here, engage here, connect here. That's the call to action, the CTA. Okay. Our basic analytics, our basic modalities of understanding the progression of our ad campaigns is based on this process. Yes, we use other terms like discovery, education, and conversion and so forth, but this is the funnel process, the attention, like, hey, we're here. This is why you should be here, interested in what we're doing. This is the things that that should be wanted by you, and these are the things why you want to actually act and purchase it from us. Okay, this is the thing. Now, in that process, there are ways that we improve those steps. Okay, and a lot of it is in very specific ways. It's things like hook-driven click-through actions. Okay, in these four processes, we have different expectations from us as marketers. We can accelerate the attention-driven step to a very specific call to action. These are more fast-paced channels like Twitch, social engagement, Instagram, and so forth, where we don't have, or we don't present ourselves in having a long story to tell. Here's the impact. Here's if you want it. It's a very 1 to 2 step process with this, very short, very quick. We don't try to cultivate step 1 messaging, step 2 messaging, step 3 messaging, step 4 messaging. And we've had conversations in the show about that, where we talk about the progression of conversation and content, that we don't keep repeating the same content over and over to minutia, which creates boredom and disinterest, that we can't be creative. If somebody engages with our content, then the next engagement should be a different piece of content as in a next step. It doesn't have to be more advanced. It has to be different. If it's a shorter time frame, and we have less frequency capabilities with that engagement, then it would be another next step, driving them closer to the action process. The span in which we have to be able to dialogue with people is contingent upon the offer of what we're offering. If it's a far out effort, like summertime or when we're here in January, or whether it's an event weeks away, we have a longer progression of frequency that we can do. So we have a more progressive conversation. But hook-driven click call to action can compress that to saying, hey, this is something this weekend. We only have a couple of days to convince this person that they want to book with us. So let's push that now. And so that will go from here's our attention driving aspect to here's the way to get this, what it is we're offering. That can compress those things. That's where hook driven call to actions can have high value to that. The other to this is the ability to add hook call to actions throughout the entire process so that, and this goes with what we always say is basic fundamental marketing strategies, is at any stage of the process, you always make it available for the guests should they choose to accelerate the engagement with you, have a call to action which they can act on. Now that can be counterproductive early on if you're offering it too soon, that it seems that you're trying to get them to the chase at the end of it. So if you're on an elongated conversation where you have time to engage with them, it's unlikely you're going to start creating some hook-driven call to actions early on. You'll begin to pepper them in as the conversation shows more tangible. When you get into that desire function out of the AIDA, okay, the attention, interest, desire, when you get into that transition of them being able to internalize what they want about what you're offering, that's when the hook-driven CTAs begin to come into, okay? As always, when we do these processes, when we're doing this messaging, when we're trying to do this shortened compression of time from exposure to interest to action, okay, we make it a 3-step process. Your hook, okay, is usually right off the bat. Bang, this is the beauty part of it. This is why you want it. Here's what you do about it, okay? If you ever remember, we had the show talking about the story, maybe you don't, but we talked about that every story usually has an arc, but there's fundamentally 3 pieces to every story: the beginning, the middle, and the end. Sounds Captain Obvious, but there is a purpose for each of those sections. You lay out what the beginning is for whatever you're staging. The middle is the transition between that and the end. The end is what you want them to do, okay? CTA, hook-driven CTAs, do that same kind of thing. The hook is really about what you're trying to get them to do. Boom, bold claim, beautiful vision, and so forth. You want this, okay? The middle section, the building of the value, is directly related to compelling them to get what it is you just offered. And the call to action is literally, this is what you do to do it. That compression is a way that we do all of this traditional marketing that I'm talking about. And then I say traditional marketing. This AIDA marketing, the attention, interest, desire, and actions, is what we have been doing all this time. And going back to what I said at the very beginning as well, we're all incredibly familiar with it, to the level of boredom with our guests, our future guests, customers, future customers, ourselves even. We see ads and it's like, oh my gosh, I keep wanting to think about auto ads and things like this. Beautiful car, great looking people, a pristine location of the car looks excellent act, built for what it's supposed to be, whether there's kids piling into a 3-row SUV or young people piling in to go to a party, or a couple enjoying a getaway with their new family, or an older couple enjoying where they go because there's elegance to it, whatever. We have these stereotypical combinations that we already know exist in our ad campaigns. And it is all about the attention, interest, desire, action, the AIDA, through the whole process. And it's usually hook-driven actions. This is what you want. This is why you want it. Feel connections, make the action, buy this. Here's the problem. The world has changed for us. Here we are, 2026. And a lot of people are going into things more about self-discovery than being told what they should discover. See, this is, I wouldn't say the flaw of the program, but it's limitation. AIDA advertisement for us is the desire to place ourselves in front of people to make them want to come look for us. That's the wide net of attention to development. Is we don't know how many of you would be interested in what we have to say, so we have to say it to a lot of people. And then the people that do hook onto this, that do have an interest in us, we can then hopefully transition that into a desire to have what we're selling, and in turn, eventually, call to action, purchase what we're selling. And that's what we do with this. We throw this white album up, but that's trying to drive the traffic to us, herd the traffic to us, put us in front of people. More and more people using generative AI discovery are guiding their own interests, and they're beginning or have growingly begun to ignore our efforts as white noise, background noise. They see the ads. We're spending lots of money to put what we were selling in front of people at this attention level. And it's the lowest ROI, it's the hardest to sell to ownership and everything, because there's such a lack of direct correlation of what it produces versus what it was spent. And that's always why it's been rarefied air and why large organizations, and why really we have such a high dependence on OTAs, is because they're willing to throw their money at that level because they have more to offer. They're selling the concept of travel, and we're selling the specifics of traveling with us. And it's easier to ride their coattails of expenses on that discovery aspect, that attention level, than it is to go over and push ourselves out there where we're very specific as to what value we can offer at such a broad spectrum of interest. Or is there? See, that's the beauty of what's happening with generative AI right now, is that people are beginning to get better at using generative AI, and they're looking more on specific interests, which means as they begin to ask generative AI better questions on discovering what it is that they want to do, where they want to do it, and how they want to do it, we have a jump in front of the line capability of being a part of the earliest level of consideration at the very nascence of attention or attention awareness development, that discovery aspect. Because, and think of this, is that we're all inundated with advertisement from all of the things that we are being offered. And we choose our level of interest based on the conditions that we are exposed to them on. Right now, we're at a phase where people are interested in, what winter's really hitting in hard in the US right now, is a good example. And I want to go someplace warm. It's a nice feeling. I can say historically, back in the days, and still recently actually, is that when the cold hit and stuck in the Northeast, we already had all of our Northeast advertisement campaigns built and loaded to literally be weather triggered to start offering coming to Florida. Now, those are tempered with when that happened. Obviously, if it's around the Thanksgiving time, it's a little tone deaf because people are already in the throes of their travel experiences and plans for Thanksgiving. Talking about ancillary other travel at that point, it's just falling on, yeah, it's fun, but I've got other things I'm doing right now. Same too with Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, okay? There's gap points in that strategy, but now we're into that process where it has more driven interest. Now we're past all those things, and for the people that either didn't travel or did travel and want to get away from the cold that they're now stuck in up north, and they still have time and opportunity to do this, they're interested in our ads. Or at the very least, they're interested in what we're talking about for spring because of the ever-present cold that they're in right now. The idea of having a temperate springtime getaway, catch it while it's early, maybe get the benefits of early purchasing and so forth that we usually tend to offer at this time of year, is a resonating message, okay? Now in 2026, we have people that are specifically looking at what they know they're interested in with generative AI as a discovery tool. So now, instead of seeing what come may in front of them as to who's trying to get their attention, me offering coming to Florida or Southern California or wherever, okay? Instead, they're like, I want to drive this myself. I want to see what my options are that I'd be interested in. And they're looking specifically. Now, normally, as a hotel, we don't tend to be in the high level attention awareness field as much. Now we've prepped up in it with OTT, okay, online over the top television, okay, TV advertisement where we can be exposed to large targeted audiences, okay, geographically, demographically, behaviorally, where we pick and choose how we want to be put in front of people based on the propensity of them being interested in what we have to say, income level or not. As a means of getting attention to us. And that has been a really powerful, effective tool in culling down our blanket exposure cost to a more specific tailored effort cost with a particular channel. But it's still fraught with unconnected value propositions as to how much that really truly cultivates rather than just expose. It does influence, we know it does that. And from an attribution string compared to what you choose as your attribution values, first click, last click, linear, frequency, time decay, variation combinations thereof, that you can prove the value of making that effort. However, we also have now the capability of being in front of aspects of interest that are tailored to what we are a part of. Meaning, if I have a hotel in Florida, then if I can be best at showing up with what generative AI discovers as to what the user is interested in, I short circuit this AIDA funnel, the attention, interest, desire, and action, to a direct correlation of attention, interest, discovery. I like the word discovery better than attention, but AIDA is the acronym that is defining the funnel process, so I'm going to stick with it. And puts our property right in front of the discovery process of the user by using generative AI. And it did that because we had all of the boxes checked, so to speak, for what the user was trying to discover with generative AI. So instead of still being in the rabble of generalized interest and generalized information that is undefined at this level of advertisement and exposure, think Expedia, think hotels.com, think about general travel interests, okay, CVBs, TDCs, and so forth. We're in that realm of my hotel came up with in the generative AI discovery that if you're considering Florida for all the criteria that the user defined with the generative AI discovery, that our hotel has an amazing thing, value, whatever complement of content that we had, okay, matter of fact, that SEO thing, that brought us into the answer discussion in the generative AI discovery, saying this hotel seems like a really great thing for what you as the user asked me to find. It has all of the things that you identified as being of interest. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily at that moment the conversion happens, but it improves astronomically the idea that it can, because you've gone literally from ambiguity to feature. You went from way down here at the low end of the funnel that we all fight and wrestle for, that ZMOD, zero moment of transaction, we're all competing with our comp set and everything else to vie for that ability to be in front at the right moment when the person makes the purchase decision. That is our traditional advertising strategy. To being in consideration early, and we get carried along. Now we're the benchmark that everything else is compared to. Now, if we could lose that still, it's not as if it's a given yet, okay? Our competitors could show up in further cultivated discoveries through the generative AI discovery, ChatGPT process, or I use ChatGPT like I use Xerox, in the generative search engine discovery. And we lose our edge, but at least we were compared to who we lost it to. And we might come back at them again if the parameters of the discovery on the generative side change. Because as the user begins to be exposed to what it is that is available based on their early queries, they might refine their queries, as we all do, to say, well, that's more important than this, or that's not as important, or all of a sudden I discovered that that is important to add. And that changes it to where all of a sudden where we may have lost our positioning early on, we might gain it back again. But the whole idea that we're at the beginning of the line of that thought process, compared to waiting until only the people that are truly interested in our destination, we need to expose our opportunities to, so we hope that they transact with us, we can actually be a part of the entire arc of dialogue that the user has, from the attention to the interest to the desire of using our product to the idea that they're going to purchase with us. We stay in that arc the entire time. That's powerful different. They're powerful different. It's powerfully different than how we've historically done things. It also is a new way of stepping out from this funnel process that we are inundated into the stereotypical marketing strategies that we have had, into also an alternative value by doing things to appease and work towards the generative AI discovery process. The volume of generative AI is only growing. even if it's a dead issue X years from now, that AI bubble burst or whatever things you see and hear and so forth, it's still a part of the current process and it's still a growing part of the current process. So why not get better at addressing the value that we can be in that process while we're still doing all the other stuff that's in the funnel process of the AIDA discovery and the AIDA, the discovery, education, consideration, conversion process, the attention, interest, desire, action, same steps, different names. We still have those strategies. We still have our channels. We still have our correlations of total traffic, engaged traffic, click-through traffic, conversion traffic. We still have that funnel process. It still exists. With the generative AI process of the content, it is different in how we approach it. We don't get to do our ads the way we've done them historically. We don't get to do the shiny picture, nice message, big headline, why you should be interested in it, create that emotional desire of the story arc of beginning, middle, and end. And then at the very end, give them the pitch of why they need to push the big red button. That doesn't work in generative AI discovery. Let's talk about process. The process of generative AI discovery is story. Sounds strange. It is a little uncomfortably different, but it is of increasing value that what we do is not about our typical AIDA arc of boom, bang, bang, click, but story arc. So marketing has gone through these transitions. Let's step back just a second before I go through the process so it explains better. Marketing used to be a finesse, an art, okay? Think that movie about the 60s, Mad Men, there it was, where you were imposing the psychology of desire immediately into advertisement. You were messaging the core of what was wanted about a product and then just providing the access to it. That was the art of it, triggering those emotional connections to it. It turned into a science these past 2 decades because we had to take numbers. We had to take, well, what is our traffic that's coming from what we're doing? How many people of that general impression traffic did they click with us? Okay, we were exposed to these many people. How many people engaged with us? How many people clicked on us? And of those people that clicked on us, how many people actually converted on those? We created this funnel understanding of this. And even to this day, as we do dashboards and do reports for people, 95% of the people, and I think I mentioned even last week's show, 95% of the people, and that's not really a made up number, by the way, it's just a nice rounded number, really just look at the same way we've always looked at it. What's my total traffic? What's my engagements? What's my click-through? What's my cost? What's my ROI? It's a pretty quick way of looking at the numbers of each of the channels, which channel's doing what we expected, what's doing lesser than it is, how are the channels mixing, and what is our total contribution? That's our revenue, Our methodology hasn't really evolved. Our data has, our ability to understand the data better has, but it doesn't translate much into changing how we look at the data. What impacts each thing, there's still a matter of throwing a dart on a board and saying, I think this correlates to that. How do we want to measure the numbers? Do we want to talk about when it first touched us or when it last clicked with us? Do we want to talk about the entire process in between the first click and the last click as being more valuable than either of those or in combination of those? That's the attribution discussions we have. That's been our world. And all of it's based on this hook-driven call to action, AIDA funnel process. Here's our product. Here's why you want the product. Here's what you do to get the product. In generative AI, it's about all the information that gets used for whatever way the user has asked the generative model to discover it. We always have known that we don't know all of the value propositions that a user has in their mind when they're looking for something. We give them options to choose from, which is forcing them to translate their interest into what we're saying we can identify: rate, availability, location. Those are things that we control, that we force them to go through that. We then force them to go through our website's navigation, what we want them to see first, what we want them to see second, where they have to go to find what it is they were already here to look for, but we didn't put it in front of them right away. We force them through these modelings. Generative AI has said, we can scratch all that. You just tell me all the little things that are in your user mind of what you think are important, And I'll go through all the garbage out there and messes and navigations and websites and sources and everything else, and take that 44 websites you used to have to look at to make a travel decision and skip all that and come back to you with, based on what you've asked me to look for that you find to be important, these are things that I think you should look at. That's what generative AI is doing. And to do that, we don't put an ad that goes the way we've done it with the AIDA. We do that in stories. We do that in dialogue, okay? And that changes from where marketing went again from artistic to science, back to artistic again, because we have to understand what is of interest, not just what we want them to know. We've lost control of their navigation of our content. Our content is there to be navigated, where before we used to control how it was navigated. You come to our website, this is our page. These are our navigation, northeast, north, south, east, west navigations. Of course, our booking engine call to action is immediately available. So if that's what you came for, it's easy to find. And at any process, it's always there for you. And then we contain what we want to say. It has to be interpreted as to how much is truth, how much is hype. We all have gotten this process, okay? And when our ads go out because they touched our website, it's all in the AIDA process. Great looking pictures, great looking message, unique offer of interest, and here's the call to action to it. This is our world. Generative AI has changed that into what the user finds of interest is what they're going to go over and have in the results that generative AI provides them. So we have to put more of a story to the process. We have to put content in a way that is user enjoyable. We're not just there to appease its search queries, but it has to have bite-sized information that is useful, bullets that are specific, and make it available to be discovered, not as a AIDA format of sexy image, great message, call to actions, okay? But here's this, here's that, here's this, here's this, here's that, here's this, and all of these story-related pieces that are cohesively connected, but not rambling on. Kind of like what I do with the show sometimes. They're very concise. They're very much about everything because, again, not knowing what the user's interest queries is, we have to be covering all the things that we in some way have about ourselves. All of the weather things, the traffic things, the nearby things, the cuisine things, the local craft things, the local things not to miss culturally things, the things that families want to do and the things that couples want to do and the things that different demographic age groups want to do and ethnic groups want to do and so forth and so on. All of this information has to be available cohesively, progressively, and continually enhanced and added to as anything changes with it, okay? For generative AI to find, use, and come back to the user for. That's where we get the benefit of now jumping ahead of the line when it comes to the process of the attention, interest, desire, big funnel, massive volume of people down to the smaller moment of zoom out where people actually make purchase decisions. That's the key element to this process, is the idea that everything I say can be used in the context that it needs to be used for, not in the format that I determine it to be in for them to be discovered, where I go to the website of a place and I want to look at the room, so I see the pictures, and I want to go and see the amenities, so I see the outlets, and I want to go to the restaurant, and they have a stupid little PDF menu because they're not smart enough to have it all itemized out. That's me just griping. Does that look of interest? And then I want to see what's nearby. I have to go through this whole forced navigation discovery process. And if all the information isn't on your website, and even if most of it is, I'm still going to go to other places around you, other websites I'm going to go to see what I didn't get shared with by you that somebody else may have about themselves or about other things that you haven't shared with me about. Unless you have all of the event stuff of your area, unless you have all of the information that I don't even know what I want. I don't know whether traffic's in there. Do I have a rent-a-car, not a rent-a-car? Do I have a car? Do I need parking? Is there bus service? There's so many things that you don't know, that I may be asking about, that you don't know about. And you don't feature it. We tend to feature things like news articles, headline, main supporting item, and then progressively less valuable data to support it as it descends through the newspaper article. That's how we tend to write websites, most important, and then in descendant order. Here, everything everywhere all at once. Everything has to be available for the generative AI to discover what it needs based on the query that it was sent for. So all this information has to be available. So you have to continually grow your database. Now, it's not just pages of random content. Again, there's a cohesiveness that has to exist. You can have your structure in your site that has destination information that can be fragmented into the types of information about your destination, cuisine, cultural, off the beaten path, soft adventure, whatever. And then categorized under those, you have unique features of individual restaurants, nearby proximities to them, how far away, any special offers you have in relationship to them, their menus that are being offered, links capability to getting to them, why they're valuable to you, what relationship do you have with them, whatever it is, or your own internal restaurants, for even that matter, which should be above all that pile. Sorry. All of that has to be in a place, in a way, that is understood by generative AI to discover it. Remember, we've talked about generative AI compared to search engine optimization. Search engine optimization will come in and look at everything and index everything. And they're going to look at all your data and say that this is your authority level based on all that data. You're not the CVB, so your event calendar is not going to be highly ranked compared to the CVBs. Your local restaurant information, however good it is not complete in comparison to another place that might feature all restaurants in your area, on and on and on and on. And it's going to give you an authority score for that. And it may or may not use your content in a search engine result page because of that authoritative level that you have, plus all the paid places that go ahead of you anyway. And their answer box, which is a whole nother strategy of optimization. Not talking about that specifically today, although we have in a strange way. But generative AI, they come in not to look at everything, but to look for the thing that they're looking for, like the fact that you're near a Greek restaurant that's highly rated, that you have a unique deal or offer with, or that it's right around the corner you don't need to drive to, which is a condition of the user potentially asking about being able to get to local Greek restaurants without having to drive. You don't know that, but because you had the information in that context, the generative AI discovered from your site and your site alone that that was the case, and therefore in the response back to the user refers to your hotel as the place that they got the information, and the hotel's proximity made that available. All of a sudden, you're in the front of the line. Compared to hotels.com talking about coming to your destination and it has a Greek restaurant that's really highly rated. And by the way, there's other hotels, but and there's no correlation of you to that Greek restaurant, which is the whole purpose of what the generative AI was doing from the user query. As an example, soft one, but reasonable, I guess. That's the value of what we're talking about when it comes to generative AI, and is to the topic discussion today, is AIDA marketing still relevant in an AI world? That's our topic, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, strangely, but that's what we're getting to. Hopefully the context identified the topic. It is still relevant in an AI world, but its relevancy is changing. Its singularity being the only way to do it is long since gone. That happened the early part of last year. A year ago, it started deteriorating as generative AI became more of a presence in discovery and search. It's continuing to shift its value. Doesn't diminish, just shifts. There's an expansion of how things get used. And generative is being expanded in its use. To the detriment of AIDA? Yeah, no. I think it's an additive right now. It's an and, not an or. But it is eroding some traffic proportionally from AIDA marketing, funnel marketing, easier way to understand it. And it is going to continue to make those shifts. You have to develop a way to have better value in generative AI discovery through this story-driven content development that you desperately need. Now, a lot of shortcuts are happening this year potentially where people are going to start saying, well, I'll just have AI develop stuff. AI knows when AI writes stuff. It's a pattern of development that AI recognizes, and it's going to become more and more a measurement of usage, authority usage, as time goes on, where these generative discovery models are going to say that's AI generated content. It's not inaccurate, but I'm going to have to get the accuracy checked, and it may slow it down compared to another site that may be more authoritative as being non-AI generated, and it's going to put a heavier authoritative value on it compared to yours that was AI generated. It may still use yours because it can validate it over time, but if it finds it easier, remember it's the path of least resistance. What it finds first to answer the question is and is authoritative, is what gets used in the response to the user. It's not that yours isn't saying it any better, any differently, but because it was used, AI was used to generate it and it gets identified that way, it may lose its potential impact value compared to a human build. Well, how do you fix that? Because now you're saying that humans need to build everything. Yes, to a degree. There are ways to instigate AI generated content and then humanize it by it being edited correctly, confirmed correctly, and passed where it's posted, so that yes, there may be components that may be AI related, but it is human based. And for that reason, the authority value goes up. Now, is that a present thing right now? Yes. Is it as big as of a deal as I just made it sound? Not as of yet, but I imagine this year it will become more and more, where humanization of content will be a ranking factor in its use as more and more AI garbage or generative babble gets out there, where it gets diminished in value because it can't be authenticated. You're going to see more AI query stuff require authentication for validation rather than taking at face value that it found an answer. We know about hallucinations with AI where it'll actually make up its own content to satisfy the query that didn't exist. That's that AI garbage we're talking about. That's out there and growing and has been. And so now there's a filtering that's coming on with this for you to keep wanting to use the AI generative discovery models. It's not based on bogus places like a hotel that doesn't exist, or a restaurant that doesn't exist, or a flight that doesn't exist, and all the other things that have come out of this hallucination stuff. That in order for you to want to continue to use their system has to get better at being accurate. So it's going to create these authoritative filters on the content that it uses, so that it gives you an accurate answer that you don't discourage, don't take with a grain of salt. You actually listen to it more relevantly because it's doing that. So it's a fine balance about developing this content that you need and diversifying the content you need, but also humanizing it to make sure that it has the validity that helps it get used for the very reason why you're making it. So for those of you that are still enjoying the last of your holiday, I don't want to make this too much of a long live show for you this week. For those of you that will watch the recast next week, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. London and Sydney time for corresponding Europe, Mideast, and APAC friends, we'll keep it where you're going to have 1,000 things next week, because obviously all the emails you've been putting off during the holidays are going to be stacked and piled and added to come Monday when everybody comes back to the grind of the new year potentially. So this is your last day to enjoy. If you've were able to extend your vacation. If you weren't, then you're one step ahead of those that did next week. So you get to sit back and watch them freak out on the mountain of email that they haven't culled through yet. And you sit back going, yeah, well, when you catch up, let me know. But anyway, for all of you around the world that watch us on all 209 countries, a very, very happy new year. For all of you that listen to us on our simulcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, happiest of New Year's, and all the channels and pages and all of our corporate relationships that broadcast us, associations that broadcast us globally. Thank you for that. For those of you who listen on Hospitality Radio in 39 countries on our radio station, thank you. For all of you that watch our TV channel, Hospitality Channel, on all your Apple TV, Google TV, Amazon TV, Roku, Samsung, any smart TV, just look for Hospitality Channel. If you haven't already, thank you for watching us on the TV channel live all these years. We're well into our 11th year. Technically, this year, we'll be clicking the 12-year mark on doing this show weekly, never having missed one, no matter where we are in the world. Thank you so much for all of that. Of course, if you want to play back any of our shows based on their data broadcast, co-hosts that were on it, or content topic, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv and go there to see it. There is a on-demand component to all of our shows, as well as a linear show that's on there that just goes through all the shows progressively. The newest show gets posted in and gets put into the cycle. In our recast, we translate this into 11 additional languages for those around the world that watch us. Thank you so much for all of the people around the world that watch our show over the course of being live or rebroadcasted. And of course, if you want to download our app to watch the show or get additional content, you can do so on your Apple iOS or Google Play. Look for Hospitality Channel. Our app is there. And I think all the other fun stuff. Oh, and if you are a hospitality marketing professional, want to join our peer level group, simply go to hospitalitymarketing.club, put in your email. I send you a quiz to validate that you are a current hospitality marketer. Once you do, we'll send you an invitation key to our group, which is not on any social platforms, Facebook or anything like this. It's a contained group, and you can start talking to your friends that don't drool when you start talking about this stuff and get glassy eyed. There's people that will keep the conversation going and amp it up even. So you're more than welcome to join us there as well. So for all of you that have made this show the success that it is, and for those that have been loyal listeners and followers for all these years, and thus you're being included, or whether you're even new to it, thank you so much for the privilege of your time. And I look forward to talking to you all next week.